There's a virus that kills up to 75% of the people it infects. It attacks your brain, causes seizures, and can put you in a coma within days. It sounds like the beginning of a pandemic movie. But here's the strange part: in 27 years, this virus has infected fewer than 800 people worldwide. To put that in perspective, COVID-19 infected more people in a single day at its peak than Nipah has infected in nearly 3 decades. So what else going on? Why hasn't this terrifying virus spread around the world, eh? We're going to answer that question. We'll explain exactly what the Nipah virus is, how it is transmitted, why scientists believe it is unlikely to cause a pandemic, and most importantly, 3 specific warning signs that would indicate when you should actually start worrying. If you stay until the end, you'll understand why the deadliest viruses aren't always the ones that spread the most. Let us start with the basics. Nipah virus was first discovered in 1998 in Malaysia. It happened on a pig farm, where workers started getting sick with a mysterious illness. They developed fever and headache at first. Then things got worse quickly. Confusion, disorientation, seizures, coma, many of them died. Scientists investigated and traced the source to a surprising place: bats. Not just any bats. The Pteropus bat, also known as the flying fox. These are some of the largest bats in the world. Wingspans that can reach almost 6 feet. They carry the Nipah virus without getting sick themselves. They are what scientists call a natural reservoir. The virus lives in them, replicates in them, but doesn't harm them. They simply carry it around, spreading it through their saliva, urine, and droppings. So how does a virus living in bats end up infecting humans? There are 3 main pathways. The first pathway is contaminated fruit. Pteropus bats eat fruit. When they bite into a piece of fruit, their saliva gets on it. If a human eats that same fruit without washing it properly, they can ingest the virus. This has been documented in multiple outbreaks. The second pathway is palm sap. This is particularly important in India and Bangladesh, where there is a tradition of collecting sap from date palm trees. Sap is collected overnight using containers attached to the trees. The problem is that Pteropus bats are attracted to the sweet liquid. They come at night, lick the sap, and sometimes urinate in or near the collection containers. When people drink this contaminated sap in the morning, they can become infected. This has been the source of numerous outbreaks in Bangladesh and India. The third pathway is human-to-human transmission. Once someone is infected with Nipah, it can spread it to other people through close contact. This includes contact with respiratory secretions, blood, and other body fluids. Healthcare workers are at particular risk. In fact, in a recent outbreak in India in late 2025 and early 2026, 2 nurses became infected after caring for a patient who had Nipah. They had direct contact with the patient as blood and secretions. One recovered. Another was placed on mechanical ventilation in critical condition. This case in India illustrates something important about how Nipah outbreaks work. The original patient arrived at a private hospital near Kolkata in December 2025. He had fever and headache at first. The doctors treated him, but he deteriorated rapidly. Confusion set in. Then seizures. Within days, he was dead. 2 weeks later, those 2 nurses who had cared for him started showing symptoms. It was the first Nipah outbreak in West Bengal in 19 years. The response was immediate. Health authorities traced every single person who had contact with the infected individuals. All 196 contacts were identified, monitored, and tested. Every single one came back negative. The outbreak was contained. This is the typical pattern with Nipah. A handful of cases, rapid response, containment. These are the 3 ways you can get Nipah: contaminated fruit, contaminated palm sap, and contact with infected people or their body fluids. Now let us talk about what happens when the virus gets inside your body. The Nipah virus is what scientists call neurotropic. That means it has a particular affinity for the nervous system. It doesn't just float around in your bloodstream. It actively seeks out your brain. The virus has sophisticated mechanisms to cross the blood-brain barrier. That's the protective shield that normally keeps dangerous things out of your central nervous system. Nipah finds ways through. Once it reaches the brain, it causes inflammation. This is called encephalitis, and it is devastating. The symptoms progress in stages. In the first few days, you might just feel like you have the flu, fever, headache, sore throat, body aches. Nothing that would make you think you have one of the deadliest viruses on the planet then. Usually between day 3 and day 5. Things change. Things appears, you become drowsy, confusion sets in. You might not know where you are or what day it is. You might not recognize family members. Then come the seizures. Then coma, in 40 to 75% of cases. Death. The range is wide because it depends on the outbreak and the available medical care. Some outbreaks have had mortality rates closer to 40%. Others have exceeded 7%. But even surviving isn't the end of the story. 20% of people who recover from Nipah are left with neurological damage, recurring seizures, personality changes, memory problems, difficulty with basic cognitive functions. And there is something even more troubling that has been documented in rare cases: late-onset encephalitis. In these rare instances, people who seem to have fully recovered from Nipah develop brain inflammation again. Sometimes months later, in some reports, more than a decade later. These cases are uncommon, but they exist in the medical literature. Scientists don't fully understand why that happens. This is the Nipah virus, brutal, devastating, terrifying. So why am I telling you not to panic? There is a fundamental principle in epidemiology that most people don't understand. The deadliest viruses are often the worst at spreading. Let me explain this with an analogy. Think about the jaguar and the mosquito. The jaguar is one of the most lethal predators on Earth. When it attacks, its prey almost always dies. It is terrifying, powerful, deadly. But do you know how many people the jaguar kills per year in Brazil? Fewer than 5. Now think about the mosquito, a tiny insect. Kills less than 1% of the people it infects with dengue. Seems harmless compared to a jaguar, right? But mosquitoes kill thousands of people every year. Why the difference? Do you see the jaguar coming? It is big, it is loud, it is rare, you can run. The mosquito is invisible, silent, everywhere, it bites you while you sleep. The Nipah virus is the jaguar of the virus world. COVID-19 was the mosquito. What terrifies us isn't always what kills us at scale. Now let me show you this with numbers. Scientists measure how contagious a disease is using something called the R0. That is R0, or the basic reproduction number. R0 tells you how many people, on average, each infected person will infect. If R0 is 2, each sick person infects 2 others. If R0 is 3, each sick person infects 3 others. The original COVID-19 had an R0 of about 2.5 to 3. That means each infected person spread it to 2 or 3 others, and those people spread it to 2 or 3 more, and so on. That is how you get a pandemic. What is the R0 of Nipah? That he's consistently show it as below 1. That means each infected person, on average, infects fewer than one other person. When R0 is below 1, the outbreak dies out on its own. The chain of transmission breaks. This is exactly what we've seen with Nipah for 27 years. More than 90% of Nipah outbreaks have been contained. They infect a handful of people, and then they stop. In the recent outbreak in India, health authorities traced 196 contacts of the infected patients. Every single one of them tested negative. The outbreak was contained. This is typical for Nipah, but why is R0 so low? Nipah kills too fast and makes people too sick to spread it effectively. Think about it. When you have COVID, you might feel fine for days while spreading the virus to everyone around you. You go to work, you go to the grocery store, you go to family gatherings. You are spreading it the whole time without knowing. That is called asymptomatic transmission. And it is what made COVID so dangerous. Nipah doesn't work that way. When you get Nipah, you get very sick very fast within days. You're in the hospital with high fever and neurological symptoms. You are not going anywhere. You are not spreading it at the grocery store. You are isolated, being cared for by medical professionals who take precautions. The virus is too lethal for its own good. It kills its host before they can spread it widely. Now here's another reason Americans specifically shouldn't panic. Geography. Remember those Pteropus bats? The flying foxes that carry the Nipah virus. They only live in certain parts of the world. Their range includes Asia, parts of Oceania and some Pacific islands, Malaysia, Bangladesh, India, Indonesia, Australia, Philippines. You know where they live. Americas, Europe, continental Africa. There are no Pteropus bats in the United States. There are no Pteropus bats in Brazil. There are no Pteropus bats anywhere in the Western Hemisphere. This matters enormously. The main reservoir of the virus simply doesn't exist in our part of the world. It is like worrying about polar bear attacks in Florida. The animal isn't there, and there is more. Remember the palm sap pathway. That tradition of collecting date palm sap exists in South Asia. It doesn't exist in the Americas. There is no cultural practice in the United States or Brazil that would expose people to Nipah the way collecting palm sap does in Bangladesh. The ecological and cultural conditions that allow Nipah to jump from bats to humans in Asia don't exist here. This is what public health authorities are saying. World Health Organization has stated that the risk of international spread from the recent India outbreak is low. Health ministries around the world have emphasized that Nipah has remained a regional problem for nearly 3 decades. There is no indication that it's changing. But what about mutation? This is the question I get asked most often. What if the virus mutates and becomes more transmissible? It's a fair question. Viruses do mutate. That is how evolution works. But here's what you need to understand. Mutations are random. Most mutations are neutral or actually harmful to the virus. The idea that a virus will conveniently mutate to become both highly lethal and highly transmissible is not how evolution typically works. In fact, there is often a trade-off. Viruses that kill quickly tend to spread poorly. Viruses that spread widely tend to be less lethal. This pattern holds across many diseases. More importantly, we have 27 years of data on Nipah. In all that time, despite multiple outbreaks across Asia, the virus has not shown any significant change in its transmission pattern. Its R0 has remained below 1. Its outbreaks have remained contained. Compare this to COVID-19 in early 2020. We knew almost nothing about it. We didn't know its R0. We didn't know if it spread asymptomatically. Had no historical data. It was a complete unknown. Nipah is not unknown. It is one of the most studied emerging viruses in the world. We know its patterns. We know its limitations. And nothing in 27 years suggests those patterns are changing. But I promised you 3 specific warning signs. Things that, if you see them in the news, would indicate the situation has changed. Here they are. Warning sign number 1. R0 consistently rising above 1. Start seeing reports that each Nipah patient is infecting more than one other person on average. That is significant. It would mean the transmission dynamics are changing. Historically, this has not happened. Warning sign number 2. Confirmed asymptomatic transmission at scale. If scientists discover that Nipah is spreading from people who have no symptoms, that would be a game changer. It would mean people could spread the virus while going about their normal lives. This is not the pattern we've seen with Nipah. Nipah makes people too sick to spread it before symptoms appear. Warning sign number 3. Cases outside Asia without travel history. Every Nipah case ever recorded has been either in South or Southeast Asia, or in someone who recently traveled there. If you see reports of Nipah cases in the Americas or Europe in people with no connection to Asia, that would suggest local transmission in a new continent. That has never happened. These are the 3 things to watch for. R0 above 1 consistently, asymptomatic spread at scale. Cases outside Asia without travel history. Until you see those signs, Nipah remains what it has been for 27 years. A terrifying virus that causes devastating outbreaks in specific parts of Asia, but has proven incapable of spreading globally. Let me summarize what we've covered today. The Nipah virus is one of the deadliest viruses known to science. Kills 40 to 75% of the people it infects. It attacks the brain, causes seizures and coma, and can leave survivors with permanent neurological damage. It was discovered in 1998 in Malaysia. It comes from Pteropus bats, the flying foxes. It spreads through contaminated fruit, palm sap, and contact with infected people. But despite being so deadly, Nipah has infected fewer than 800 people in 27 years. More than 90% of outbreaks have been contained. Its R0 is below 1, meaning outbreaks tend to burn out on their own. The bats that carry it don't exist in the Americas. The cultural practices that spread it don't exist here either. And in 27 years of observation, it hasn't shown any change in these patterns. Health authorities around the world, including the WHO, consider the risk of international spread low. So should you be concerned about Nipah? If you live in South Asia, particularly in areas where people collect palm sap or have contact with fruit bats, yes, take precautions. If you are a healthcare worker treating patients who might have Nipah, absolutely, follow strict infection control protocols. But if you are watching this from the United States or Europe or Brazil or most other parts of the world, evidence strongly suggests you have other things to worry about. Information based on evidence calms more than panic without foundation. Share this video with someone who might be worried. Understanding the science helps us all make better decisions about our health. Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, please subscribe to this channel for more evidence-based health information. And remember, this video is for educational purposes only. It is not medical advice. Information presented reflects current scientific understanding as of January 2026. If you have specific health concerns or symptoms, consult a qualified healthcare provider. Emerging disease situations can change, and you should follow guidance from official public health authorities like the CDC and WHO for the most current information. Stay informed, stay calm, and take care of your health.